I hope I'm back. Let's see. Hey Daniel, how you doing? Yeah, we're having some technical issues here tonight. All right, Bruce, you there?
Yep.
All right, I just don't see your picture there. Well, you left me. You need to connect your mic and cam. And Chris, I'm waiting on you. Well, if it ain't one thing, it's another. I'm actually trying to hotspot.
Yeah.
There's Bruce.
All
Okay.
Right, I did something stupid, so we're good.
I'm actually running off a hotspot right now.
Sounds
I
like
don't know what's going on with my internet. So, anyway, I think everybody heard what you had to say, Bruce. I didn't.
He had one more point.
Go ahead and finish.
Well, I kind of want. Let's I don't know. Talk amongst ourselves. Just give everybody a couple minutes to come in because
sure.
I bet people heard what I had to say, but let's just give everybody a couple minutes just to catch back in. If guys, once you're in, if you could just put a little note in the chat, say you're back. When we see a bunch of those, maybe we can get rolling again.
Oh, this happens like once or twice a year. Where you
got it out of the
technology,
way.
Gotta love it. So, all right. So while we're talking amongst ourselves, funny story today. Can't make this up. Hey Tina, Ron's back. So I got off work I had to work today, and I got off work at 3:00. And I hung around the house for a little bit, and then I decided I was going to take Bougie and run her out to this WMA field, and I was going to shoot the little training pistol I got and see how she reacted. And I was going to film it. So I'm walking around the field, and she's running, playing, having a good time. I get her back to the truck. I load her up onto the tailgate, number one, so I can keep control of her. She's not going to run away, just trying to keep control of her, keep her calm. And I get the little blank pistol, and I've got the video rolling, dude. I'm petting her, and I'm shooting. She kind of flinched the first time. I shot it again. Okay, but she's happy. And so I ended up shooting the whole revolver pistol. So I ended up shooting everything. Not a problem. Okay. I get home. I'm going to download this great piece of footage. I mean, I had this angle, I knew it was going to be great. And as I'm looking at the video, I'm going, what is that? Is my pants down? What's going on here? And my shorts, and I look up, and my shirt had rolled itself up, and my belly was hanging out. It looked like I was wearing a midriff shirt. And I said, I am not putting that on YouTube. There's no way in God's green earth am I going to sit there and have this big old belly hanging out. I'm like, I showed it to my wife. She's laughing. I'm like, I can't believe. Went out there and spent all that time. Got a great setup, nice backdrop. Got a beautiful kind of like an upwards angle, so they're looking up, and there's my big old belly hanging out from under my shirt.
Yeah, I've been
Happens.
there. Yep. So just to kind of recap the end of what I was saying is that my opinion on growing a crop, not spreading seed, not manipulating it, but the guys that set the regulations, they have determined that that's okay and it's not detrimental. So I tend to trust them, and I don't have a problem with us growing stuff. Ron had mentioned, like he said, in Ohio they can throw seed out 10 days before the season. And Ron, I don't know if you caught me before, but I don't think that's correct. Double check on that. My understanding is all the seed has to be gone 10 days.
Everything has to be gone 30 days prior.
Or 30 days.
I'm sorry. Each state is different. I think mine is like 10 to 14 days has to be completely gone.
Gone.
Prior to the season.
Yeah, not stopping to throw it out. Don't throw it out 10 days or 14 days or 30 days. Whatever the regulations are, it has to be gone. And good luck proving that, right? If you try to. So my just kind of rule of thumb is once you're into the fall, don't throw out anything right now. After the season, as I did this year, throw out all you want. Bring ducks into your area, get them to maybe imprint on it. But prior to the season, I don't throw anything. I plan it now, which I'm working on some videos for that. But once it gets close to the season, we actually had an issue. A club I was in, Rosie, what are you grounding at? We had an issue at a club I was at. Tom, who joined us a few weeks ago when I was hunting here for the first time, he and I were in a club, and we were hunting a spot, and another kid, I say kid, 23 years old, whatever, but he texted us, said, man, he was in his spot, this one very specific spot. He was hunting in a very large area. He said there's corn everywhere. Somebody had snuck in there and thrown out corn in his spot. I'm not gonna, and I don't think he did it, because he immediately texted us and we said, get the heck out of there. And he called the game warden. I think somebody was trying to set him up. I'm not gonna
right.
on that. But once the season starts, once it gets close to the season, I mean, it's the fall, beyond planting season, don't throw it out, in my opinion. So Matt, what is your opinion on growing corn and flooding it?
First of all, let me throw this out. What a man does man or woman, whatever they do on their property is their business. They can plant and flood whatever they want. It's right now. It is very legal to plant corn, flood it, and hunt ducks over it. You cannot manipulate the corn. However, that's what they say. You cannot manipulate the corn prior to flooding or after you flood it. Well, flooding is manipulation. In my humble opinion, when you have a field and you plant corn and you flood it, you are manipulating that area by putting water on it. That is just the way I feel about it. Therefore, to me, flooding corn, when I say flooding corn, I'm talking about man-made, using water control devices or what have you, is nothing but legalized baiting for rich people. And hey, Kyle, how you doing? So to me, that's what it is. Now, corn, we all know ducks love corn. They love it. But I would prefer to see people, if they're going to make a food plot for ducks, to do a moist soil type planting. Whether you're planting rice, I got no problem with rice. Rice grows corn does not grow in water. Rice grows in water. Your other millets, your Japanese millets, your which is probably the best as far as making a food plot for ducks. Will not grow in water, but it has a high water tolerance. I don't mind planting smartweed. Like I said, rice, smartweed, things of that nature that is a moist soil, even if you like what you're doing, Bruce, which I really, really do. I'm digging the way you're doing stuff. You're going to go in there. You've got the water drained out. Your grasses are growing up. These are wild grasses. You do have some residual rice that's come back, what they call ratoon rice,
right?
Or red rice, depending on what part of the country you're from. It is coming back up, and you've even said it yourself. You're going to walk in there and you're going to mow it, knock it down, which is perfectly legal with natural vegetation, and then you're going to flood it. I don't have a problem with that. That's to me, that's just good sound management. But with corn, especially when there's an imaginary line, and I'm just going to say the Mason-Dixon line. So anything above the Mason-Dixon line, corn is very beneficial to ducks. It gets colder up there, so they need that carbohydrate. As they push farther south, they need stuff like invertebrates for egg production. They need the protein for egg production. I think it's been more beneficial for the ducks to do a moist soil, especially in the south, versus a strict diet of carbohydrates. Now, you will get some invertebrates in a flooded cornfield. Another issue I have is in a natural or moist soil environment, you're only flooding up to 8 inches, 12 inches at the most. In a flooded corn situation, you could be flooding 3 to 4 feet. Ducks are not going to be able to get to those invertebrates or get down in that bottom of that muck and get those little crustaceans and get the hellgrammites and all the other good little things that they want that has protein. Therefore, you never see a duck feeding, and I'm talking about puddle ducks.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see them stretching out 3 feet. It's just, they only got 8 to 12 inches.
Right.
So
right.
I've never hunted a flooded cornfield. I would do everything in my power never to hunt a flooded cornfield. I'm quite sure one of these days it's going to happen. And somebody's going to see it, and somebody's going to make me eat my words. I got it, but I just don't approve of it. Now, like I said in the beginning, what a person does on their property is their business, and right now it's legal. Right now it's perfectly legal. I think cornfields, they put ducks, for lack of better wording, they put them on a welfare system. They get so used to eating corn that a lot of them are going to forget how to get the other stuff that they need. It's just going to happen. It's just over time. They're going to be so dependent on corn.
Yeah.
Now hunting now there's all types. There's 2 types of flooded cornfields. I think Ron and Jeff, they live out west. Hoosier, I know, lives out west. Yeah, Anti, this is a puppet show. So if they had a cornfield that was cut and rain got on top of it and had a sheet water on it, hey, that's cool. That's great. Again, down here, if you had a cornfield and you cut it, listen, Men are fallible, machines are fallible. You're going to have spillage. If you had a cornfield, you cut it, you harvest the corn off of it, and then you dike it and flood it. I ain't got a problem with that. I ain't got a problem with that at all, because that corn is not standing.
But let me ask you this though. But
Sure.
That's by artificially creating water, by artificially holding water. That's a manipulation of the environment, right? I mean, that's right. It's legal, but I mean, really, I guess it comes down to where do we draw the line, right?
Right.
Do you draw the line at planting moist soil plants like you said, the natural stuff, the smartweed and wild millets like barnyard grass? Do you draw the line a little farther down the scale at maybe millet, which is a cultivated product, or rice, that's a cultivated product? I mean, yes, we grow that for food, and as part of their, especially for rice, part of the accepted agricultural process is to flood that, and even to flood it after harvest to keep weeds down, right? But then we get into corn. Well, it's not. There's no standard agricultural process that has you flooding a corn or a soybean field. And I've been on a hunt in a flooded cornfield. We had corn around us. It was a youth hunt. I wasn't carrying a gun. But I've hunted over flooded soybeans, right? Which flooding them isn't part of the regular process. So it's just kind of, where do you choose to draw the line? And for me, like I had said before, Matt, you may not have heard me because that's when you were cutting in and out. I rely on, there's a lot of people with very high education, PhDs in waterfowl management, that say this is okay to do it. That said, if they change the laws tomorrow and said, you know what, it's wrong, you can't flood a cornfield for ducks, I'd be like, all right, I'm fine with that. You guys know that, right? You guys have made the decision. And I'm not the guy that just accepts what the man says. But I mean, in this case, I would have to defer to their judgment, because what do I know about it, right? I have to accept them at their word, right? So it's, where do we draw the line? And I draw the line at what the experts tell me is okay to do. What I don't get is why we can mow down a sunflower or a millet field or a cornfield and hunt dove over it, but we can't do that for ducks.
Yep.
I don't understand what the difference is, and I bet you there's not a sound biological management reason for that. Just like why, I think it's Indiana or Illinois, where they used to not allow centerfire rifles. I'm going to go off track here for a second. But then they finally allowed it, and they said, yeah, you can hunt with centerfire rifles, just not a 270 Winchester. Really?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, when I shoot a deer with mine, he doesn't know the difference between that and a 30-06. Right?
Right.
But they heard that one guy 70 years ago that said the 270 Winchester wounds deer, and now that's the law. Right?
Right.
So that gets me back to the dove and the dove versus duck thing. Why we can most crops down for dove, but we can't do it for ducks. I question whether or not there's a sound management practice. And one more thing, if I can still stay on my soapbox, I challenge anybody to find a sound wildlife management practice that says not hunting ducks on Sunday is the right thing to do. And I'm done.
I think that the Sunday hunting, I have two opinions on that.
Just to give them a break.
Because I like going up to North Carolina and hunt. And I like the fact that there's no Sunday hunting. It's a day off. Now, number one, and I'll tell you why I like it. It's a completely one day of no duck hunting. Ducks get a rest. That's number one. The other ones is you have October hunting. You have great November hunting. Your December hunting starts to go down a little bit, but then picks back up in January. And you have even though you have 60 days, it's so spread out that it makes you feel like you've got more days to hunt. And you can hunt different times of the year. I have my best season was last year. It is by far. I'm talking about here recently in the past 10 years was last year, and it happened in October in North Carolina, where we shot nothing but mallards. I mean, it was it.
Yep.
It's all we shot.
Yep. But
and I was astonished.
I get that. So just to clarify, I am retired. If I had the energy to do it in a good enough divorce attorney, I could hunt every day of the season. Right? I could. Yep. I'm retired, and my hunting spot is 30 minutes down the road, and I've got a Falls Lake even closer than that. I can hunt every day of the season. I don't need Sunday. But look at what RD Reynolds is posting in here. He must be another Sunday hunter. Hard to get days off from work that I can hunt the weekends, right? Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, right? And I know we all, and I'm big on this. I whine and cry about the crowded public land hunting. I don't do it anymore. I did it once last year and I hated it, right? Because there's so many people. But as duck hunters, we're a dying breed. The numbers of duck hunters is going down.
Yeah.
Right. And we're fewer and fewer. And we're going to, if we're not already there, we're going to become a politically insignificant population at some point in time. And when that happens, good luck finding any opportunities to hunt, right? So guys like RD here, maybe he has kids and he wants to take them hunting, but he can't get off work to go do it, right? So his kids aren't going to get hooked on it like we did as kids, and they're not going to go. Therefore, their kids aren't going to go. The numbers go down. So in North Carolina, the law that prohibited hunting on Sunday was formed right after the Civil War. There was nobody in America that was thinking about any kinds of regulations that were for the benefit of wildlife in the antebellum South, right after the Civil War. It was there for other reasons, right? That we don't necessarily go into, right? So, ducks don't have a calendar, and on the public land here around Raleigh, you can only hunt it 3 days a week anyway. Right? So that's fine. You hunt Jordan Lake Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. You hunt Falls Lake Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Right? But at least those guys that maybe they got to work every Saturday. They got a job where they got to work every Saturday. Or their kids are playing baseball and they play baseball every Saturday. They get that Sunday that they can go out. I know a lot of the where I see a lot of the negative from it is from some of the large guide outfits in North Carolina, and I suspect that maybe they think it's going to infringe on their business. But I've heard them say ducks will skip over North Carolina if we open up hunting on Sunday. If that's the case, my season this year should have been stellar because they can hunt ducks on Sunday in Virginia for the first time this season. And I shot 6 ducks, I think, in North Carolina this year, right? So I can go on and on about this, Matt. I'm sorry, I get a little passionate about this because I think it's a little ridiculous.
Go ahead, Chris. Did you have something?
We got tons of WMAs out here where there's certain days that you're not allowed to hunt on. And they do it to more so just to give the ducks a break because pretty much every blind is packed. And how Tennessee works, they literally pack the blind. It's like 8 to 9 people inside the blind. Now, which bounces back into the corn thing. You made a good point about that. I wanted to make this point is that so far as like we're drawing the line, like when you come into, being able to not hunt or restricted on certain days of hunting, restricted on, manipulating food sources, that sort of thing. I think those regulations are all in there more so to not give the hunter the full-on opportunity that they can. Now, mind you, that it goes into the season limits too. Like Maryland, you're only allowed to kill one goose. Virginia, you get into the point where you're only allowed to kill 3 geese, throughout the season. The same way with ducks. I think you're only allowed to kill 2 mallards in Virginia, versus here you're allowed to kill 4. And they were talking about bringing it up to 5. So I think when it comes to all these regulations and all these things that that y'all have been tapping on, that's when we really get into like what Matt does all the time on his channel, is like the conservation side of it. So it's just to bump up numbers, and mind you, which opens up another can of worms, is that it's like DU is driving towards this whole strive to get like 1 million ducks or something like that. I think it's more so.
That's Delta waterfowl, but go ahead.
Oh, Delta waterfowl. I think it's more so just for them to make money, for people to get in memberships and that sort of stuff. But that's besides the point. But it's going to drive up the duck number. But at the same time, you have to keep in your mind, it's like you can do all this sort of stuff. You can turn around and throw corn out there in your spread. You can go out there and flood everything if you want to. You can hunt on Sundays, but at the end of the day, you're only allowed to kill 6 ducks. And half the time, most of us miss. At least I do. So
most of us only shoot 6 ducks in a year.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, what you do or what you're capable of doing, to prep to get this awesome season. But at the end of the day, you're still limited on to how many you're allowed to kill, and especially with each species, and your ability to actually shoot too.
Yeah. That's a great point, Chris. And I have a background in, that's heavy in math and sciences. So when you get into numbers and analysis of that kind of stuff, I get interested in it. But, that HIP survey that we have to take every year, right? They don't derive any information from that. They just use that to pick who they want to send the real survey to find out, how many ducks we're shooting each year. But that's an interesting point. My contention here is that that's neat what Jeff just did. Is that you can open hunting on Sundays, and the people that are against that think that means that everybody's going to hunt both days. No, they're not. No,
yeah.
I won't, and I can. Right?
Especially the married guys, their wife ain't gonna let them go out both days.
Exactly. Your kids got something to do. You got a job. You got house to take care of. Some people will. Some people
the season
will.
falls in the middle of all the holidays too. You got Thanksgiving, Christmas.
That ain't my fault.
9 times out of 10, most people
that ain't my fault, y'all. I didn't do that.
Most people are born in between September and February anyway.
So Jeff's question here is: do they count the days you can't hunt towards your season, or add it to the end? So states like North Carolina. So we all know that the Atlantic Flyway gets 60 days, right? But states like North Carolina, where we can't hunt on Sundays, they don't count those days as part of our season. So it's Monday through Monday is actually only 6 days for us. So yeah, they compensate for. It's called compensatory, whatever. It's not 60 calendar days. It's actually 60 days in the field. So it spans more than 60 calendar days, but we get 60 days to hunt because we can't hunt on Sundays. So they do allow for that.
And that's why they get to open up there'll be 5 days this year, right? In October.
So we split it. We've got the what do they call it?
I know you're going to have 3 days in the inland. In the inland zone, you're going to have 3 days. You're going to have Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I think it's
Thursday,
just 2.
Friday, Saturday.
Well, okay.
I've been looking.
That means, but you know what?
I've been keeping up with North Carolina.
I'll give you those days for 3 Sundays in January.
Would you? All right, so there's been a discussion. RD has said it a couple times. You've said it, Chris. I believe you actually said it. If the state of North Carolina or whatever state said, okay, you can hunt on Sunday, but what day do you want where you can't hunt?
I don't know that that's required. So on public land that gets hammered, they should do that. If they say 3 days a week, and right now a lot of our public land in North Carolina is 3 days a week, right? So that's fine. Just make one of those. This WMA or this game land gets Saturday. This game land gets Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there are actually many game lands in North Carolina that we can hunt ducks 6 days a week right now. There may be, but I don't know, right? But for private land, open it up, because you know what happens if I go into my spot and I sit on it every day and shoot at ducks every day, what's going to happen? Ducks are going to stop coming to my spot, and they're going to go to the guy down here that only hunts it once a week.
Yeah.
And they're not going to leave the area. There's actually some new research that I've just recently read about. The Meat Eater website actually published some of it recently. So we now have the ability to put little GPS transmitters on ducks with cells that connect to cell towers and send daily updates,
the signal.
multiple times a day, right? And they're actually doing, Chris, they're doing a lot of research in your area right now.
Yep.
And you hear, and I've heard this a bunch, that ducks show up in February after the season ends. So therefore, we need to extend the season into February. Global warming, whatever you want to say, our season's shifting later. What this research is telling us is no, the ducks are in your area. They're just avoiding you. They're staying in refuges. They're staying in areas that don't get hunted. They're staying local to you, but they know you're there, and they just don't come to your spot until February rolls around, and all of a sudden you got to put the gun back in the safe, and now they start moving in. Right? So
I proved that years ago on my Lake Santee, and for the guys that are in South Carolina, RD's one of them, and there was a couple other guys that were here earlier. We have in a span on one side of the lake, it's called Jacks Creek to Pax Landing. There's over 200 duck ponds. Over 200 duck ponds in a stretch. And they only hunt it 2 days a week. Generally, it's Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's where all the ducks go. Now, we have three, South Carolina has three types of hunting. We have a category 1, which is a lottery. A category 2, which is you can only hunt it on certain days. And then you have open public.
Right.
And pretty much down that whole 200 corn pond area is open public hunting. And you won't see anything. Come February, when they pull the plug of those ponds, you've got 50, 60,000 ducks that are now in that spot. Why? Because they're not getting any pressure. Now they're going to go out and they're going to go somewhere and feed. I mean, that's I don't know when you read the study. I don't know when.
It's recent.
I'm not. I mean, I'm an educated man.
That study's been going on.
I have a college degree. It is not in biology. It's not in waterfowl biology. But hell, if I could figure that out 15, 20 years ago, but what I'm getting at is duck hunting, and I'm trying to be as controversial as I can tonight, because I really am.
I love it.
I'm going to argue with a stump and probably try to win. The waterfowl hunting is heavily regulated, and it's heavily regulated by the federal government. It's the only hunting sport that I know of that is regulated by the federal government.
All migratory birds, though.
All migratory birds.
All
migratory birds. So I have a hard time trusting some of those people that are bureaucrats, especially.
I'm with you. I am with you 100%. But
I do think that ducks they need rest. Ducks need three things. They need food, water, and rest. That's all they need.
And refuge. Yeah.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
So
I guess my contention is preventing hunting on Sunday doesn't really accomplish that. They're getting hunted 6 other days of the week. And Jeff asked, if you can only hunt public land 3 days of the week, how does that affect your season? So we can hunt. That's just some public land. Like if you get out, like if you go to a river, something that's not a defined game, what we call game land in North Carolina is public hunting property. Rivers you can hunt 6 days a week. If you get out the intercoastal waterway or farther out in the Sounds and coastal North Carolina, I think all of our lakes are probably part of a game land. But you get in what's considered public land that's not a part of a game land, then it's more open. And public land is more open as well. So 3 days a week, that's just kind of management within the larger system of North Carolina hunting. So those 3 days a week for those public properties don't affect our season. So, if you're a guy that can only hunt, you live in a part of the state or due to your situation, you can only hunt one specific game land, you're stuck with 3 days out of the week, right? So that cuts your season in half, basically. But yeah. I mean, it's just, my opinion on that, Matt, is that I don't think the prohibition on Sunday hunting has any biological rationale. It was a political thing, not based. It was just there were other motivations for it, and now people have grown up with it and they think it's right, even though we're one of the very, very few states left in the country that does this. And
it's all based on the Bible Belt.
Yeah, it's
the Sunday hunting is all based on the Bible Belt, which okay. I'm with Charles and Craig. I've hunted with Craig. I've yet to hunt with Charles. Bruce, we have yet to hunt together. I'm hoping we can change that this year.
Yep.
If Chris will go ahead and get his button gear, maybe we can all hunt together.
That'd be fun.
Or
we'll have to build a sled for him because he is
kill yourself a limit.
He is retired now.
Let me go pack the truck. I'm on my way.
That's right. Come on out. I'll take you.
But I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was taxing because I would leave at Thursday afternoon right after work, drive up to Craig's house, literally throw my stuff down, catch a few hours of sleep, and then we'd be on the road the next morning going duck hunting. And we did that for 2 days. And when I finished on Saturday, I was back on the road, headed back home. Now, fortunate for me, I have to work. I have to work on Sundays, so it really didn't bother me. But I mean, trust me, I see what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. I actually see what people are saying. But and Anti says, "Let the pup decide."
We'd hunt ducks 365 days a year if we let the dogs decide.
Oh yeah.
Ron's point here, and Ron, I get this. In my opinion, the big money clubs shouldn't be allowed to plant and flood corn. It just holds ducks so they can kill hundreds of birds. I struggle to disagree with that. I just don't know how you would change it, I guess. I mean, and I have gone on a hunt in one of those big clubs. We got it in. It was a youth hunt, and I got to go along as an observer. And it was I call it a millionaires club. When it's $80,000 just to buy in, that's not your dues. That's a big time club, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there was lots of flooded corn, and there were ducks everywhere. It was February. It's the first weekend of February, youth season, but there were ducks. So but what do we do? I guess we would have to say, well, you can't flood corn. All right, well, I'll flood rice. You know what? Rice, as you guys watch the videos I have coming up, rice produces more food per acre than corn,
Yep.
right? Millet, ducks love millet, right? I
Yep.
mean, where would it end? Do we just say you can't flood corn for ducks? What if
I said
you're a
before,
farmer like where I grew up in Western Kentucky, where there was the Ohio River bottoms that had cornfields for miles and miles, and occasionally the river flooded. You can't hunt that, right? I mean, it's private land, right? Even though way back in the day, people just kind of hunted wherever. But I mean, I get your point, Ron, and I don't disagree with it. I just don't know how we would reasonably control that, I guess.
I mean, ducks are creatures of habit anyway. So I mean, it would take the whole generation of the duck for them to stop coming to that location anyway. So
I love
even
this
if
new
you did
thing.
limit it.
Sorry to interrupt, Chris, but I love this new thing. Matt, I don't know if you're doing that or somebody else is, where we post something in the window, a question. That's awesome. That's cool.
I'm doing that.
Flooded corn holds more ducks than dry? I think it depends.
Yes.
We talked about this last week, didn't we, Matt? I think it depends on where you are. If you're in the Dakotas, ducks just hammer dry cornfields. Ron says they won't touch his. When I grew up in Kentucky, I never heard of anybody shooting duck over a dry cornfield. You had to flood some of it.
Not out here. You got flooded.
You know, yeah, I don't.
Well, again, and my point that I made earlier about corn is you have this imaginary line that runs across the United States. Anything above it, corn is king. That's what the ducks are looking for. It's colder up there. They need the carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
As they push further south, and Chris just answered it, they need water. They need more water because they need the invertebrates for protein. They're not going to get the invertebrates on a dry cornfield unless it naturally floods for whatever reason. So they need that water. So flooding corn does not produce the amount of invertebrates as, say, other vegetation such as millet, which rice is a millet. So you got rice, millets, sprangle top, all these other little grasses and whatnot that grow in water. You're going to get more of an invertebrate explosion. I've seen this. I've seen this happen where ducks would not even touch corn in the water. They wouldn't touch it. They went somewhere else. They went toward. Now this was years ago, and they would leave these flooded corn areas, and they would go to where there was high invertebrate counts, and especially when we had hydrilla on our lakes.
Yeah,
because they could get what they needed for and you know, on my lake, hydrilla is pretty much gone. I mean, there's still some spots that's there. There's still some eelgrass and stuff. It's coming back, but for the most part, it's gone. So they have nothing to eat there. So they're forced to stay in these corn ponds. And of course, some of these owners, these, and I do not want to make this a private versus public thing, because as I said before, what a man does on his property is he has that right. He has that right to do it. And I'm not going to tell him he can't. I just tell him my opinion. And opinions are like elbows. Everybody's got a pair of them. Most.
Yeah.
Most.
You know, it is interesting what you said about the corn, because I think I mentioned before, Tony Vandermoor told me, if you guys don't know who Tony Vandermoor is, he manages the Habitat Flats, which is a huge duck hunting club or guide service up in Northwest Missouri, but he's a professional. And he told me ducks don't touch rice up there. You come down to Missouri and Arkansas and they hammer it. So I really think you're onto something with that, Matt. It just kind of depends on, as they migrate down, what their dietary needs are and how they change. And here in North Carolina and like where Chris is in Tennessee, we're probably kind of in that zone where they're switching from one to the other, so they'll pretty much eat everything that they can get to, right? So,
But
I mean, still, I went out after the season, and this was in maybe March or April. It was whenever they had spring break around here. I forget when it was, and I posted up the video pretty much the same day I took it. And those ducks were tearing up the corn. So, maybe it goes into, maybe they were still migrating, or they were going back north and they needed the carbs to be able to, continue flying. They needed the energy. I don't know, but they were in that corn like crazy.
what were your temperatures?
I mean, I was still out there with a jacket. It was probably like maybe 40s.
They needed carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, when the temperature gets down, they're going to need carbs. They're going to need the carbs. They'll get carbs from seeds. They'll get carbs from millets and rice and corn and just different plant seeds. Whether it be lizard's tail or even water shield. They'll carb up, but they need those invertebrates for egg production. They need that protein.
They do. I've seen several comments go through here that talk about duck hunting becoming a rich man's sport.
I knew that.
And they're talking about like purchasing land. There's a lot of folks in North Carolina that they say part of the downfall of Madam Mesquite is that all of the rich guys have built impoundments around the lake. I think it probably has more to do with the fact that they overhunted skeet and killed all the vegetation. But I get that perspective. I just I got a big bandage on my arm from where I got cut up last week helping a buddy of mine ribbon off a 20-acre impoundment and some land he and another guy just bought. And you know what? That's big money. I don't know what they spent exactly, but they spent $150,000 on 60 acres, and they're going to spend almost that again, 70, 80,000 to clear it and build impoundments and all that jazz. And that's outside the means of a lot of people. And I hate that because I would hate for it to become elitist. I had a coworker that's from Belgium. He lives in Belgium. He's European. And I mentioned at one just offhand going and playing golf. And he was like, "You play golf?" I'm like, "Occasionally. Yeah, I'll go to the course." But where he was from, only the elite, the most wealthy of wealthy, played golf because they were the only ones that could afford it because, a golf course takes up, 100 acres or whatever, right? Well, I don't want duck hunting to become that where the average guy that's, working, doing whatever, right? And I think, I don't know how you're never, ever, ever, period, without some crazy laws, gonna stop people with the means to do so from building impoundments and building duck habitat and attracting ducks. But I think some of these states, and I wish North Carolina could do more like what Tennessee does out there. Tennessee has some really good opportunities, especially in the western part of the state, where they build these huge blinds. And I think Chris has hunted out some of them. They'll hold 12 guys, and they're in the middle of a flooded cornfield. And Reelfoot Lake is full of duck blinds that are more and more becoming public. They're going back to the state as guys that own them die, basically.
Don't get me on that topic.
I'm sure. But now those blinds might be 350 yards away, but at least they're opportunity.
Closer. Yeah, about 175.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
but at least it's opportunities for guys to go hunting. Around here in North Carolina, we got Falls Lake, which you can hunt the lake if you got a boat. And you can hunt some of the swamps. They flood half the impoundments every year or on Jordan Lake. And we've got a few, halfway impoundments that they build that they don't take good care of. I went in November one year and they had let it go dry. Right. So, it would be great if we could somehow encourage our state agencies to put a little bit more effort into it, right? Because I think, at least North Carolina, I think they're doing kind of a half way of producing that for us, and I think we could do a lot better.
Chris, I got to ask a question. What you painting there? I know it's a duck head, it's a bill, but
yeah, I'm working on a gadwall head. I have to prep for tomorrow.
Gotcha.
For y'all that don't know, I do taxidermy, so got to stay on top of my money.
Is that
I hear
your
you.
full-time gig now, Chris?
Yeah. I got done with I say I retired. I medically retired. I did 14 years in the Army. I broke my back last March of last year, and then got med boarded. I got 100% on the VA side, all that good stuff. So I pretty much took up taxidermy just because I eat, sleep, and breathe ducks and geese, and that's pretty much about it. But yeah, this is a gadwall I just finished up today.
That's a widgeon.
So, not a gadwall, a widgeon. Sorry, I'm working on a gadwall head, but yeah,
Wow.
that's him and all of his glory. Hopefully, y'all
That's
can
cool.
see it. I can't really get the right angle, but
Yeah.
Yep. Got a Scoter up there.
Oh, nice.
Harley Quinn.
Oh.
That wood duck is the reason why I got into the taxidermy. That's a gadwall, and then I got a black duck and 2 redheads over there on the other wall. So,
Hey,
That's
Jan.
very awesome. Very awesome. Hey, there's a great question. Go ahead, man.
Jeff Barrett says, why do you think they give different flyway different amount of days? The amount of ducks that go down the flyways.
Plus,
But
plus the amount of hunting pressure that they get.
Right. If you look at the flyways between the Atlantic, the Mississippi, and the Central flyways, you will see pretty much they're going to start around the same time frame. Now, there may be a week, 2 weeks, depending on which state, but you're going to see pretty much around the same time. The one that's different is the Pacific Flyway. And if somebody correct me, somebody look it up, but I think they get 90 days.
107.
107
Good
days.
Lord.
Yep.
And they're allowed way more ducks than we are.
They get 7 ducks,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah, 7
107 days. So if you really wanted to, it would take some time. So if anybody spends a lot of time behind a steering wheel, I would recommend going out to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, and they have like a 16 episode series on how duck regulations are set. And there's this concept called, and I'm not going to do a perfect job of explaining it, but adaptive harvest management is what they call it. So there are these various models. What it amounts to is it's what Matt said. It's how many ducks you have in an area, but they also consider how many hunters. What's the hunting pressure? What's the biggest state on the Pacific Flyway? California. Right? Are there a lot of duck hunters in California?
Northern.
Probably not.
In Northern California, there's some, and I know some guys that have hunted up there, right? But there's not as much hunting pressure. They got a lot of birds. Actually, they probably get fewer birds in the Mississippi and Central Flyway, but they have way less people. If you look at a population density of the country, what's the East Coast look like? We're shoulder to shoulder, right? So we get few birds. I mean, you could probably build a case for a shorter season here. But so it comes down to the number of birds, but also the amount of hunting pressure that they receive. That's why the Pacific Flyway gets, like I said, 107 days and 7 birds, because there's just not guys out there hunting them. Is the biggest impact on that.
Well, let me ask you this then: because of your state because I agree 100% with you. Would you consider a shorter season on the Atlantic Flyway? The same 6 birds. We're now going back to 4 mallards, which I disagree with, but hey, who am I? You still get 6 birds, but a shorter season, with a shorter season. Or
shorter season where you're able to hunt Sundays.
With a reduced number of birds because of the hunting pressure that we get on the Atlantic Flyway.
I'm going to cop out on you on this one, Matt, and basically say the same thing I said before is the biologists that develop the models that tell us what the population uh, can tolerate say that what we're doing is okay. I think we've been real close with the drought seasons we've had over the last couple of years. We got relief this year. But I think if we'd gone through another year or two of drought, that was going to happen, and not just on the East Coast, but maybe also in the Mississippi and Central as well. But those guys say we're not hurting the population, or, gosh, I could go on forever about this, right? So there's an additive impact of hunting, and then there's a compensatory, right? Additive means that every duck I shoot was a duck that would have lived through the end of the season, and all of hunter harvest is completely additive. It's actually not the case, right? A given percentage of ducks are going to survive the season, regardless of how many we shoot. That's actually kind of the dominant model that goes into that. That there's a given amount of habitat, there's a given amount of natural death or predation from non-human sources that result in ducks dying. And actually, hunter harvest is a very small impact on duck survival. So I would support it if a politician told me we need to do it, I'd tell him to shove it. If a biologist, if Mike Brazier or Joel, I can't remember Joel's name, from Delta Waterfowl, those guys that are knowledgeable biologists, if they said we should do this, I would believe them. Mike Brazier is a biologist with DU. Right. He does the podcast, right? If they said, we look at the models and now hunter harvest is a bigger impact and we should dial it back, I would. I think I would want it to come, maybe what Chris said is on Sundays, maybe not. If I had a shorter season, if I only had 45 days, I'd probably want to spread them out over a larger period of time. But
okay, it's fair enough. I'm like I said, I told you the other day, and said it earlier, I'm going to play devil's advocate tonight. I am going to stir
Go for it. I think that's great.
I am sitting there with my I got a big old boat paddle that I cook gumbo in and jambalaya, and I'm just stirring that bad boy, and I'm waiting for something to stop.
I thought you were going to lay it up against my head.
Hey, Wanda, how you doing? Mark Taylor, what's going on, buddy? Long time no see. I know a lot of y'all are coming in tonight, and I see you, but we're having such a great discussion on the panel that I just don't want to interrupt a lot. So if I miss you, I'm sorry. Just know that I think we got us a good panel tonight. I think we got a lot of knowledge here, and we're trying to build something with this panel that's going to get bigger and bigger, hopefully.
So RD Reynolds makes a comment here that I wanted to touch because we already talked about it. Actually, maybe he missed it. Unless we move back to February when the birds show up, right? Something about extending the season. So RD, we talked about earlier that's kind of a common sentiment and one that I have shared at a time. But there's more research that uses GPS cell phone backpacks on ducks to get real-time data. And we're finding, and this is brand new data that's coming in like within the last year or two, we're finding ducks are here already. They're just hiding from us. They know where to go and hide where we can't hunt them. And they just kind of, when we stop hunting them, they come into our duck holes. I saw that this season. As soon as the season ended, I started throwing out corn and I had wads of ducks sitting in my duck holes, right? They weren't coming there during the season when I was shooting at them, but as soon as I started feeding them, they showed up. So, and if you move it too far into February, ducks, for the most part, have already formed a pair bond when you get into February. And if you kill one of them, their odds of finding another mate start to decline pretty drastically into February. So we might start seeing hunter harvest being a bigger impact in duck numbers if we did that.
Now, speaking of
what part of, go ahead, Matt.
Right before Chris is going to answer this question, I read, it's been a while, and I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I don't have a memory like you do. But
it's okay, Bob. I'm fine.
when ducks are hatched, that I read somewhere that 80% of them are going to die from predation.
At least
From egg to hatch.
Mm-hmm.
So from egg to duckling, 80% of them are going to die from predation.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that 20%, 10% will, or 10% or less will get shot by hunters, which gives that 10% that goes back up north, or more, depending on that year. But what you said earlier, I've seen ducks start pairing up in late January. I would not, even though I do hunt in February when it's Veterans Day, the veteran hunts, I do hunt, and I do try to take out youth during those hunts. But I'm agree. I don't want to see that. I would rather not see it extended into February. Now we're talking about ducks. Now, as far as snow geese go,
kill them all.
we need more hunters, and we need more hunters. To go after snow geese. During
I know what the issue is with snow geese. Snow geese, they've gotten too used to all these.
But anyway,
all these dive bomb people putting out, 50 million dozen decoys. So you can't really decoy any snow goose unless if you have some massive ass spread, where you've dumped $1 million into. It's ridiculous.
So where are you
you've
from,
gotten
Chris?
them to where they have adapted to that. They won't just decoy into a normal spread.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a new thing. I don't know anything about snow goose hunting, so I don't know if that's a new thing or not.
Yeah, it's ridiculous out here, at least.
So, Chris, Ron wants to know what part of Tennessee you're in.
I'm in Clarksville, which is right above Nashville, probably about 40-minute drive north.
Yep, right on the Kentucky border. Been there many. My folks live in Cadiz, so just up the road from
Okay.
me.
Yeah, I actually go up to Cadiz for the veteran hunt when they open up because they do the vet hunt, at the very beginning of the season. So you get fresh ducks at the beginning, and then in Kentucky you get fresh ducks you get ducks at the very end too. So you get an awesome veteran hunt in Kentucky.
Are you hunting on Lake
Cadiz is where I
Barkley?
go for that.
Are you hunting on Lake Barkley up there?
Maybe.
Fair enough. My folks live right on the lake. If you're familiar with the rock chapel areas.
Yeah.
If y'all go hunt with me in North Carolina,
Barkley Lake, Kentucky Lake, all of it.
Cool.
If y'all go to hunt with me in October in North Carolina, two things are going to happen. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take your cell phone, and I'm going to blindfold you and put you in the bottom of a boat. And I'm going to drive in circles for 45 minutes before I get to where I'm going. RD said, I
don't care.
RD says he wished they'd add first responders to those days. I do too. I wish they would.
Yeah.
100%.
Hey, Jan Phillips makes a really interesting comment here. I wish Delta Waterfowl had the money to send every able-bodied trapper to the prairie pothole region. Agreed. That's a big thing. I guess raccoons are basically an invasive species in that area, and skunks are way more prevalent than they were 80, 100 years ago, right? Raccoons kind of rode with people, apparently, when they came, but those are both just terrible nest predators that will eat eggs, and Delta Waterfowl puts quite a bit of money into areas that they, focus on and say, hey, this is an area where nest predation is high. Let's focus on this area. And it does help. But yeah, Jan, I agree with you on that.
And on
particularly because those are animals that are not really indigenous to those areas.
Mm-hmm.
On this note, for you guys, most of everybody in here are duck hunters. If you are not subscribed to numerous trapping channels, you're doing yourself an insert. You need to subscribe on YouTube. I got plenty of people that I am subscribed to. Mark J. Larson, Boxy Outdoors, to name a couple. Subscribe to those channels. Trappers do not make a lot of money to begin with.
Can't make money off of it.
And they do, a lot of them do it from just because they enjoy doing it. So, but to help support them, subscribe to their YouTube channel. If you come across one you like, subscribe to their channel, because they're doing what they can to get these nest predators. And that goes for, not only just ducks and geese, but turkeys, deer, there's a lot of coyote trappers. Need to throw that out there.
I just want to shout out to Craig there that talks about his son at Fort Campbell. And his son lives in Marion, Kentucky. Craig, I shot my first deer in Crittenden County. So did my dad. There's more deer in Crittenden County than there are people, I'm pretty sure, and some big ones as well. So I know I've been to Marion many, many times. I grew up in Henderson, if you know where that is, not far away. So I'm pretty sure you and I have traveled the same ground before. That's pretty cool.
Yes, Anti, I do. I have no link. It's just I'm selling them straight off I got them on the what I have left is in a cardboard box. We're talking about my hats. In a cardboard box. I got about 7 or 8 left. That's it. So yeah, if you want a hat, it's Cash App or PayPal. I know a lot of people are going to think they're expensive, but you got to understand it's a $10 shipping fee to get these things. It cost me $10. I sent one to Charles the other day. He ordered one, and his was the cheapest, and he lives in eastern North Carolina, and it was still $9 and change.
What do you send them in a gold-plated box? What the heck, man?
No, it's just that box that I get when my wife orders stuff.
Wow.
I do that flat rate thing and try to stuff it in something as small as possible.
I ordered a hat. I ordered a hat that came stuffed in an envelope once, and it was all like this. I would put it on my head, and the bill was like over here, so you can't put a hat in an envelope.
Hey, real quick, I didn't want to seem like a douche, but I went and read all the comments and everything. Craig, I understand that your son is at Fort Campbell, but if you want to link up with me this coming season, since you hunt Lake Barkley, if you're calling Lake Barkley because you're calling Lake Barkley the lake, we'll go hunt it. But if you're talking about going and hunting Dover, I don't hunt Dover. I try not to. So, but either way, we can link up. So just hit me up on Instagram. It's the same handle, Duckalope Outdoors.
Well, that sounds like an interesting story, Chris.
What?
Yeah,
not hunting Dover.
Craig's the guy I hunt with a lot here. He and I have been hunting together.
Dover Bottoms is Lake Barkley WMA, and just about every blind is 200 yards from each other. I drew blind 25, which is the worst blind on the WMA, and I built it because TWRA burned the old one down prior to us drawing them.
Episode, yeah.
And so I drew that blind, and pretty much the 2 blinds that were in front of me, they would shoot pretty much at every swing duck I had. They would turn around and, you would turn around and get one land in the spread, and they would just shoot randomly to keep other ducks from, because I like to let them congregate. I'll let them all like land in the spread, and then I'll turn around and just start blasting, maybe get a reload in there where I can kill 4. But Dover itself, I think, is just overhunted. There's tons of the high school kids, because the high school is like super, super close to it. Tons of high school kids out there. There's a few guys that think that they actually own the WMA.
Yeah.
Because they grew up and, they lived there. Me, I'm a transplant. So, I got that nickname, but I'll go and hunt it every once in a while if I have, nothing else to do, and I don't want to drive as far as I typically drive to the places I like going, and put it that way. But yeah, Dover, I mean, yeah, you could go and kill a duck possibly, but I will say you have a duck fly through that WMA, you're going to have every single blind on the entire WMA. And mind you, I think there's close to 30. Every blind blowing a duck call at it. So as soon as somebody opens up with a hail call, everyone else starts
Yeah.
calling. Same thing with a goose. It would be like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd be bored as crap. I'm sitting there messing around with my phone, playing on TikTok, and I'd be like, you know what? Let's mess around. So I just hit the honk one time, and everybody starts honking. And I'm like, there's no goose flying around at 1 o'clock. I'm sorry. Like, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I stay away from that place.
I get that. That sounds like every piece of public hunting land anywhere near me here. That's a bummer.
Charles, if you're still here, take care. I'm glad you got your hat. Take care of yourself, man. We'll catch you next time. There you go. Ron just put up my Cash App and my PayPal account. Just make sure that when you fill out the information that you put your name and your address. And once I receive it, I will get it out in the next few days after I receive it, and I'll put it out in the mail. Usually Fridays is my mail day. That's when because I work from home, but I'm usually so busy that by the time that I get off work, the post office is closed. So Fridays is my day off. So that's usually when I take stuff to the mail, but I will get it out as quickly as possible. I'm quite sure you were Anti. Appreciate that. Real quick shout out to Anti and to Tina if she's still in here. They're doing a great job tonight as moderators, putting out everybody's channels that have channels in here, helping me keep my putting up my information for when people ask for it. And I just want to give a huge shout out and thank them all for that. And let's see here. That's part of the reason I'm doing it. Jan says that's the reason I joined a private lease. My blood pressure could not handle the public hunting.
Yep, I'm with you on that.
But okay, so first of all, guys, I just want to tell you guys on the panel, Chris and Bruce, I think this has been one lively discussion. I have enjoyed this immensely. But now, I told a funny story in the beginning. I'm probably going to tell one more. So if you've got a funny story, something that has happened to you, duck hunting related, let's go. Let's get some laughter going on in here.
I got one because it makes fun of myself. So when I was a kid, like middle school age, before we were still shooting lead shot, so I might have been 13, 14 years old, something like that. And we had this great spot. The whole story behind it, my dad and his buddy and I rented a small plane and flew over the river bottoms and found a duck blind on a cypress slough. We got permission to hunt it. So we're out there hunting duck season, and it's cold, and the water, there's cypress slough, there's cypress knees and everything around it. I'm out for whatever reason in front of the duck blind. I trip over something and fall into water up to here, right? And it's near freezing. I literally got soaked early in the morning, and ducks are flying everywhere. So it was funny. I just fell down in it, and my dad was out in the decoys getting a bird or something, and one of his buddies said, well, Bruce, if he didn't cuss now, he's not gonna, because I was in the water up to my neck. And I mean, my waders are full. I am soaked. Everything I'm wearing is soaking wet. So I crawl up in there. Our blind had an actual little enclosed area that was about probably 8 feet wide. And we had a heater in there. So I go in there. I strip down to my long underwear. We fire up a heater. We had a propane heater in there. I fire up this heater. So here I am, a skinny little 13-year-old kid in his underwear, in a duck blind, And I would sit there. We had a curtain over it, and I would sit there and I would poke my head out when they started calling ducks. And when they would call the shot, I would jump out in my wet underwear and I would shoot ducks, put my gun down, and run back inside and sit on the heater. So that's when my dad knew I was completely addicted to duck. I didn't ask to go home. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to shoot ducks in my underwear.
All right, Chris.
My goodness, I'm trying to think of a funny story, and my mind's just going blank. I mean, really, the only funny thing I can think of right now is me and Justin were up there hunting in Maryland, and he kept telling me not to wear these waders out to the blind because we had to drag the jet sled out there. It was almost a mile, and mind you, I was dragging all the gear, so that shit was heavy, and so he was like, don't wear them. Just throw them in the jet sled. And I'm like, dude, I'm already dragging this sled. Like, this thing is beyond heavy. I mean, we had like 3 Mojos, 4 dozen decoys, like all of our blind bags, everything. And I was like, no, I'm just going to wear them. I was like, it can't be that bad. So on the way out there, you know how it is, like at night, you get a little bit of dew on the ground. It's, wet, and that jet sled, and you just slide right across it.
Sure.
Well, we get done hunting. And we load up everything. I think we only ended up killing like 2 ducks. It was the only 2 that ended up coming up in the hole. And we get dragging back, and I get about a quarter mile into it, and I'm like, man, I'm getting freaking hot. And we keep going, and Justin's making fun of me the whole time. He was like, "Come on, boy!" And he's acting like he's whipping me, and treating me like a horse. And we get about a half mile into it, and I'm like, all right, I'm taking off the waders. I'm like beyond the point where I'm not sweating anymore, and I didn't bring any boots, so I'm down in my socks, and I have these BDU pants on, and I'm trying to roll them up, but they're way too long because I'm super short. I'm like 5'4", and they're getting down past my feet, and my whole body is completely covered in sweat, even though I'm not sweating anymore. And I get to the point, and I just sit down on the jet sled, and I just can't take it anymore. I'm like, just let the coyotes come and eat me. And so Justin starts cracking up laughing. He's like, all right. So he grabs it with one hand, and mind you, he's like 6'7", built like a brick shit house, and he just pulls it with one hand the rest of the way, all the way to the truck. And I was just completely defeated. And he was like, "You learned your lesson?" I said, "Yep. Won't wear my waders when I'm on a long walk like that, especially when it's a little bit warm."
Yeah. I think Jeff Harris has got us beat. I fell in with 20-degree temperature and went to McDonald's and used their hand dryer naked to dry off. That's
all right. So if anybody's
Matt,
been following my channel for a while, you'll know I've shown this picture before. And yes, that is Phil Robinson in the background.
Ooh, excuse me.
Okay. In the foreground is my dad. Okay. Got to set this up because there's no way you'll get it. So my dad is an outdoor writer, and I went to hunt with him to go hunt with Phil Robinson. This was pre-Duckman 4. That's the video where he shot the deer, did the famous deer flip. Well, here's what happened. Phil is very paranoid, and he thinks that all the federal game wardens are after him, which they probably are, but, that's what he thinks. He kept asking us over and over and over, "Are you the game wardens? Are you federal game wardens? You got to tell me if you are. You have to tell me." No, we're not. Yes, I am a police detective in Sumter, South Carolina. Showed him my credentials. That didn't. I mean, I have no jurisdiction there. I'm just duck hunt. I just want to come here to duck hunt. We hunted with them for 4 days. On the second day, I had ig of hearing, "Are you federal game wardens? Are you federal game wardens?" And we're in. If y'all have noticed, this is the big blind that they hunt out of. That's that big, big blind. So it's dark, and there are ducks just piling into the decoys before daylight, before shooting time. And I had enough of hearing that, "Are you game wardens? Are you game wardens?" I grabbed my shotgun. I jumped up. I slapped the shell into the chamber. 15 minutes good before before shooting time. I cut down on a fat mallard. And I set my gun down and I said, "Now, do you believe us? We are not game wardens." And he just sat back in typical Phil fashion, goes, "All right, boys, let's get him." And, buddy, it was on.
Man.
We shot 25 mallards in 17 minutes. That it was on. So yeah, that's one of my funny story about Phil Robinson. So he swore up and down we were game wardens. I had to prove we weren't.
Hey guys, real quick, I got to go ahead and cut this one loose tonight. So I got the wife wants me to go on inside. So
all right. Hey,
But-
All right, buddy.
Chris, if you can, before you go, is there anything upcoming on your channel that we should be looking out for?
I mean,
Anything
unless
planned?
if you're interested in taxidermy stuff, that's pretty much what I'm stuck on right now.
Okay.
So I'm really not doing anything outdoorsy. I mean, once the wife's leaving to go to Virginia here in about 2 weeks, so I might do some fishing, so maybe a fishing video, but
All
running some jugs for some catfish, but we don't catch anything. I'm just not going to upload it. But
right.
yeah,
So-
it's just mainly centered towards taxidermy. So if you're interested
And Matt
in that,
said you might be moving out to North Carolina. Is that true?
yeah, possibly. So
You know-
it just all depends on what happens here within the next year or two. So
Okay.
we
Any
just got to make
particular
sure we get
area
everything
that you
set
might
straight.
any area of the state you might be looking at?
She's talking about like Lake Norman area.
Okay, that's right. Yeah,
And then I've been trying to push towards moving towards the Outer Banks, but that's probably not going to happen. But we'll
Better
see. We'll
duck
see what
hunting.
happens. Hell, we might end up just staying here. So if
There
we
you
stay
go.
here, at least I'm in the duck capital. So
That's right.
I consider it
that's
the
right.
duck capital because it's probably the most ducks I've ever seen in my life that are around here. So
Yeah, you're in a good spot. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Well, have a good night, brother.
All right,
Thanks for
Chris,
joining.
take care.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, and see y'all later.
Hey, next Monday, dude. Next Monday, every Monday night.
I'll give it a try. So I gotta stay on top of this work.
All right, man.
All right.
Jan Phillips, thank you so much. Ron, could you tell me whether it was Cash App or PayPal so I can keep track? Ron got stranded on a river bottom and had to be rescued by a hovercraft.
That's a new one.
RD says that's near me. Near what? What did I miss?
I don't know, baby. You met. Are you near Lake Norman, RD? That's like
Lake
the
Norman
Charlotte area of North Carolina.
Yeah, that's not too far from where you live, RD. All right. Well, we've actually been here going on 2 hours, but we had a glitch.
Had a
So
glitch, yeah.
I'm still going to be calling it at 10 o'clock just because, people got to go to work. You don't. I do. But
I'm still tired, though. What about you? I asked Chris, Matt, what about you? You got anything planned that you're working on with the channel?
I do. Well, I tried to do a training video today and ended up getting 3/4 of my belly exposed.
No.
So I'm going to redo it sometime this week. But I can't divulge it. But hopefully Friday, I'll be going somewhere to do a video and have it put out before the weekend is done. Okay. Maybe even get it, if I can get it all together, I might even put it out Friday night. but it's going to be one of my biggest videos of the off season.
Okay.
That I've got. I just can't go into it because I really want it to. I got to wait to Friday. I'm hoping Friday everything falls into place, the stars align, and the whole 9 yards.
Right.
He's
RD is asking me foul play, and Craig, my name's Bruce. Not my mom didn't name me foul play, so call me Bruce. That's fine. Do I hunt Mayo Lake? I have not. So I'm near Raleigh. So that's what, hour and a half for me. I know guys that have, but I never have hunted it. If you have, it'd be cool to hear about it. I've heard that it can be good, but no, I've never hunted Mayo Lake. I've never been to Mayo Lake. I've gone up and fished Car Lake, but I've never. That's about as close as I've ever gotten. So on my channel, so what I have coming up, and I released the first one yesterday. Yeah. So I've got a whole series, probably about 5 or 6 different videos on planning and preparing and planting and, managing either a full impoundment, which I don't do. Or I do more of improving natural habitat. So kind of my reasoning behind it is when I was trying to figure this out a couple of years ago, there was no resource that kind of distilled things down for me. So that's what I'm trying to do for you guys that are trying to manage your property to attract more ducks. Just kind of draw it down to brass tacks, and then, some 5 and 10, 15-minute increments talk about, picking a location, choosing the type of management, what you might want to grow, how you go about growing it, and those kinds of stuff. So I've got a couple queued up. I may actually push one out tonight before I go to bed. But be on the lookout for those. I think they're pretty interesting if you're trying to manage a property. I try to answer the questions that I had, so hopefully that's helpful.
Hang on 1 second. I'm doing business. I'm doing business on my phone.
All right.
Hang on.
Thanks, RDA, for the subscribe. I subscribe to your channel as well, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Ron, I got it. Well, it'll be coming to me shortly, but yes. Got it. Ron, I got it. I will get everything together tomorrow and try to get it out sometime this week, buddy. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Bruce contacted me about a wood duck call, and calling, and that's how we've got in touch with each other. And then I started watching his channel. And now I'm hooked on it. I like it, man. I like what you're doing. I mean, I really do. And as I told you, I think in a text message, dude, I wish I lived closer, because I would be out there every weekend. Just if nothing else, just
I hear you.
I would.
I went out today to try to get some work done, but I think I saw the sun for the first time today in like 3 or 4 days. I don't know about you guys. You've probably been getting pretty similar weather, but it rained like for 3 days nonstop, and it didn't flood, but it's just water everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was just too nasty and muddy for me to get out and do anything. So, Ron, yes, I did train Rosie, and I trained Elsie, the dog I had before. So I've never sent a dog off to be trained. Just like Matt, I think I do all the training myself.
Mark, I appreciate you.
That's something that I want to do some videos on this. I think we should take one of these. I don't know if I'll make it next week or not, because my wife will just be getting in town from being gone for 10 days. But it'd be cool for us to come up with some things to talk about around duck hunting. I think a lot of people think that training a duck dog requires more time than it really does. I think you can do I've done it. You got to start with a good dog, but I think you can train a perfectly competent hunting dog, maybe not a field trial dog, but a perfectly competent duck dog with 15 minutes at a shot 3 or 4 times a week.
right now. I work her every day on basic obedience every day, and right now I'm teaching her. Still teaching basic. I mean, you got to understand she's 4 months old. I mean,
right. Yep.
Tomorrow she's going to forget everything she learned today. So, it's just repetition. But it's 10 or 15 minutes with sit, heel, come, stay, that kind of stuff. I am throwing some bumpers for her and some duck wings, and I'm making her place.
Yeah, I saw that today. She was hopping up in the chair.
Well, right now on a chair.
Yep, that was she did that good today. I saw that.
Yeah, and now I've taken my dog stands. I've got 2 dog stands. One that you put on a tree. One's a regular marsh stand. She's hesitant on the marsh stand because it's a little bit higher. But I've set the tree stand down on a 4x4 post, really low. Yeah, and she can just basically just walk up it, and I'm working her with that a little bit. I took her out today for just to see what she would do around a gun, and I had a training pistol.
Yeah.
Now she did fine. The video, I screwed it up. I'm gonna have to redo everything. But water. So I'm very limited on water places to go with water. Because of the alligators.
Yeah.
It's all because of alligators. So I don't get a still no bougie channel. I am working on that.
A bougie channel.
I do have a pond that I can go. I have 2 ponds that I can go to. One is very, very deep, right off the bank, and I don't know if she will. That will be a great pond once she gets used to water.
Yeah,
doing water retrieves. The other pond is a public park, and I've got to watch the people because she's a puppy. She wants to go play with the people, and she was pawing at the water today, and she's just. I mean, she's not a lab, so they don't take to that. So I've got to get her used to the water.
Yeah.
So
even labs are different. Rosie, I mean, granted, she was born in September, so she was very young that first winter, and we've got a pool, and she didn't want to get in it. Didn't want to get in water when I would take her out to the farm. And it was the second year, and now she won't stay out of it, right? So alligators matter. Yes, they
alligator
do.
matters.
Especially when they eat your face.
All
Thanks,
right,
Ron.
Bob.
Hey, just quick. It's 10 o'clock. We got to wrap up. Ron, we talked last week. I think you were going to send me some video. If you sent something, it didn't come to my email address. So if you didn't, please send it. I'd love to see it. And it goes for anybody else. I mentioned this last time. If you guys want to take some video of the places that you hunt, if you're managing some property, I'd love to include it on my channel. The recommendation is hold your phone like this. You don't need a GoPro. Hold it like this so I get wide angle instead of like this. And don't do this like I'm prone to do. Keep it still and hold it in one place for several seconds to give people a chance to see it. So if you guys, the email address is on the about page of my channel. So I would love to get some videos from you guys. So Matt, thanks, buddy, for
Bruce,
hosting.
appreciate you coming on. I want to do this, like I said, every week, dude. I mean, let's come up with something and do it.
Sounds good.
I do have something else in mind that may even be better.
All right.
So we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk as it goes on. We're gonna keep talking about this stuff.
Cool.
I'd like to come up with a cool little name for this little deal here.
All right.
But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all coming in tonight. I hope that that this grows. Don't forget, share it out. Share out my channel, share out Bruce's channel, share out Chris's channel. Help us grow so we can, get bigger. That way we can get better. and bring y'all more stuff because I really do love this kind of interaction. Anyway, Bruce,
right,
thanks
guys.
so much for coming. Everybody
Matt.
in chat, y'all have a great night. One last thought. Today is not for me. I'm a veteran. It is not for me. It is for the guys who gave the ultimate sacrifice
Yes, sir.
in combat that keeps our country free. That's who you should be thinking about. Don't thank me. I didn't do anything. I didn't die. So don't thank me. We have our day in November when it comes around, Veterans Day. So with that in mind, y'all have a great night. Have a great week. And we will see y'all next time on
All right.
Daddy Duck.
Thanks, Matt. See you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.